Hello and welcome to Living in Chicago, the show where I interview real Chicagoans about the neighborhoods that they live, work, and play in. I'm your host. My name is Jake Lyons, and in this episode, I interview Brooke Parker, who lives in the Tri-Taylor neighborhood of Chicago. Tri-Taylor is located just west of downtown technically it's under the umbrella of the near west side. It's kind of on the southwest corner of the near west side community area is what they're called. It's right next to the Illinois Medical District, so called because there are just a very dense concentration of hospitals. There's Rush University, University of Illinois has a presence there. Mount Sinai is not too far. There's a VA hospital, among I'm sure some others that I'm not even privy to or thinking of right now. But it's very the aptly named medical district, and then it's right around the corner from Pilsen, right around the corner from the United Center, the West Loop, Fulton Market, all that kind of stuff is not too far as well. It is located just south of 290, the Highway 290, or if you are listening to any kind of traffic report on a Chicago radio station, you might hear that referred to as the Eisenhower or the Ike. If you're taking CTA, which is Chicago Transit Authority, the transit system, the public transit system of Chicago, and wanting to take a train, you will be taking probably the Blue Line to get there. There's a couple Blue Line stops that are right by there. The Western Blue Line stop and the Medical District Blue Line stop. There's also a Pink Line if you are taking that, maybe on your way down to Pilsen or some other place. It's not too far from the Polk stop, and that is the main sort of streets going through it. It borders Roosevelt Road to the south, and again 290 to the north. It's a pretty small area. The specific neighborhood of Tri-Taylor doesn't have a ton of not a very big geographical footprint or anything, but so just so you know on that, it goes pretty much from Damon to a little bit west of Western on the east west, and Harrison Street goes through it. Taylor Street goes through it. Tri-Taylor is named Tri-Taylor because it's shaped like a triangle, and it has Taylor Street going through it, which is where you're going to find most of the restaurants and shops and general things to do in the Tri-Taylor area. If you're looking to buy a place in Tri-Taylor or you live there and wanting to sell, I'm a real estate agent, so I can't help myself but get into some stats on this. The median of a two-bed condo in the Tri-Taylor area as of the recording of this podcast is going to be about $260,000. If you're looking for a house, say just 3 bedrooms or more house, the median sales price on that so far, right around now, is $585,000, and the median rent rate of a standard 2-bed apartment is coming in around $1,825, and those are all median price points. So, if you remember from stats class, that's just the price right in the middle of all the bucket of goods that was sold. So 50% sold for less, 50% sold for more, etc. But that's just like a quick little snapshot of what the real estate situation is looking like in that area. And as far as what is it actually like to live in this neighborhood, well, that is the point of this whole podcast. So I'm gonna defer to Brooke Parker for that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into our interview. All right. I am joined here by Brooke Parker. She is a resident of the Tri-Taylor Medical District neighborhood, which is right next to the Little Italy neighborhood. It's all kind of under the umbrella of the near west side. And she is in the nonprofit world as a fundraiser. Brooke, hey, how you doing?
Hi, Jake. How are you?
Doing very good. Thank you for coming on and sharing a little bit about your neighborhood. And I'm sure our listeners will get a lot out of your experience here. Let's just go ahead and start with where you're from, Pittsburgh originally, right?
Yeah, so I'm like 45 minutes away from Pittsburgh because it's easier. Just like people from
Yeah,
Chicago, they say, "Where are you from?" Oh, Chicago, but where at? Oh, 45 minutes away. That's the same for me.
right, right. Oh yeah, Naperville or whatever. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, and when did you move to Chicago?
May of 2019.
And are those pretty much the main two places that you've lived, or were there some in between stops along the way?
Nope, just well, I did. I lived in Beaver County and then I moved closer to Pittsburgh and then I moved to Chicago.
Okay, nice. And just for work is why you moved here? Just that was the best job opportunity.
Yeah, within my field and department, yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Have you visited Chicago very much before moving here, or was it just kind of sight unseen? Let's jump in and see what happens.
The first time I was ever in Chicago or even knew a little bit more about Chicago was when I came in for the interview. Never been here, heard a little bit about Chicago, not much, and
Hmm.
I had my interview here for the first time.
Okay. What has been so? Did you really have any even like preconceived notions of Chicago? Based on anything, TV, movies, news, like culture or anything, or.
So pretty much when I was telling my friends and family I was moving here, they started to give me negative feedback like, "Oh no, you're moving to Chicago. It's very dangerous and vicious out there and you have to be careful at every turn." Which kind of like they're like, "You better have a gun." You know what I mean? So it kind of like scared me before I came out here, but now that I'm here, I'm not wrapped into that world. So I
Hmm.
don't see that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a good thing that has a reputation that it has not been living up to quite yet.
Say that one more
And
time.
what so
Sorry.
it's good that that's a reputation that should the city has not been living up to for you quite yet or at all, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yep. What made you why the medical district slash Tri Taylor area?
So the real reason why I moved here is because it was something along my budget. I looked in
Mm-hmm.
different places like Humboldt Park. I looked in Pilsen. I looked in Lakeview. Like I just looked in different neighborhoods and either the price was right and it was just way too small of a location, a place for me, or the price wasn't right and it was exactly what I wanted. So when I ran into this place, I liked the neighborhood. It was close to work and it was a little bit over 1,000 square foot and it was like at the high end of my budget. So it worked.
Yeah. Okay. And cool. So and that's the only apartment that you've been in so far. Have you jumped around within that neighborhood?
No, I haven't jumped around within this neighborhood. It just costs so much to move. I entertain the
Yeah.
idea of different neighborhoods that I were interested in, but it just costs to move. It just costs too much unless I was buying something or whatever. So I just decided to stay.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's why, my wife Emma and I, we stayed in the same apartment for like 8 years before finally moving, just because it's just such a pain to do it. It ended up being like $2,000 worth of, hiring movers, which absolutely was an essential thing to do because we live on the top floor of a three floor walk up and
Oh
had
yeah.
a bunch of furniture and all that. So that was just, we weren't going to do that ourselves. Definitely worth it to hire the professionals. But yeah, so long-winded way of saying I agree. Yeah, I some people move around, every year. Like some people, I know a lot of people that are just like they like the idea of switching up different neighborhoods and things like that. They'll play out their 1 year lease or maybe two at max and then go move to a different place. It's like I guess if you don't have that much stuff to move, you could pull it off, but I don't know.
I have a friend ever since I've met her, she's moved three times and I've been here 5 years. So it's like,
Hmm.
but that's the same way she is too.
Yeah. Yeah, but so obviously, I guess the neighborhood you're in hasn't pushed you away. So, what are the things that do keep you there? Like, what are some of your favorite spots to go to, or just things you like about it?
I think I feel safe. That's the biggest thing. I mean, little things have happened here and there, but nothing too crazy. I
Hmm.
like to walk outside and I like to, run as well. So like in my neighborhood, there's a lot of families here. And there's dog parks and there's playgrounds, there's a soccer field. So I feel very safe here. And I could leave my car here, if I was to go to town for a week. So I feel safe. That is the reason why I do stay here, because there's not a lot of things that happen around where I live.
Hmm.
Because I have looked at different places, but it's just like, would I feel safe there? And then also too, it's very close to work. So I work right in downtown. And so a lot of my business is done here professionally. I have to go to the
Hmm.
suburbs every once in a while, but it's quick to work. When people are like, oh, I got a 15-minute drive, I literally have a 5 minute, 15-minute if it's a bad day, right?
Yeah.
So it's very convenient for work. I have grocery stores that are not too far. My church is close by. So it's just, I kind of feel like I live in the center of everything.
Yeah. And so you do drive your commute, or would you ever take the train or anything? Because you would be off, I guess, the blue line, right? That would be the
Yeah.
closest, like the UIC blue
No,
line.
I drive often. I I drive. Yeah, because I just think public transportation, I've tried it when I first got here, and it just wasn't safe. And for
Yeah.
me, the experiences I've had. So I just
Hmm.
decide to like do like Spot Hero or whatever to find
Yeah.
parking if I decide to go somewhere.
Hmm. What so on the blue line, or just in general, you just don't like it?
Well, I don't have family here. So it just people are just I don't know anyone really, so like to call for help. So like my first time on the blue line to go into downtown, there was this person that was just staring and like following like me throughout the train. And I was like 2 months
Mm.
here, right? And like who am I gonna call? Like I'm not calling my cousins, I'm not calling my brother. And it just made me feel very, very uncomfortable. And then like it just happened to be like when I got off, they got off. It was just I just didn't
Mm.
like that. I just didn't like that at all. Unless like we're going as a whole group of people. I mean, if I was invited to a whole group of people, I'd probably go. But
Yeah.
just by myself, not again.
Yeah. That makes sense. How has I'm curious how so growing up, kind of, I would assume this culturally more East Coast centric, right? Most of your friends, peers, and whatnot were probably, if they were going anywhere, they were going to obviously Pittsburgh or probably Philadelphia, like DC, New York, Boston, places like that. What I think what the right question is here. I guess what has stood out to you the most, maybe about even just people living in the Midwest and Chicago in general versus what the experience would have been kind of like more East Coast and more of those other bigger like East Coast cities.
I would say compared to New York, when you cross the street, people are more nicer. People will move out the way here. In New York, they're running right into you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not even giving you space to be able to maneuver across the way. And also too, I would say it's a very everywhere else is foodie, but foodie here in Chicago is very close, right? So you could go check out the same street of restaurants and you could get a whole different menu every day or ethnic food every day. I feel like in New York and Philly, you have to go into those neighborhoods to be able to do that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so things are more closer together here in the city. Um, I would say also to a lot more people use, I mean, besides New York, compared to Pittsburgh and Philly, I feel like a lot more people use public transportation here. I've never met so many people without a license, but because they just use public transportation or they have a license and they don't have a car. Like I into a lot more people here than out east with that. Because at first I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you have a license and you don't have a car, but it just makes sense if you're using, hopping on the bus to get to the blue line, then get to the red line, and then hop back on a bus. It's just very integral here.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I would if I didn't have to have a car. I mean, it would be really, really hard to be a real estate agent and not have a car. But
Right.
yeah, I would love to not, have a $400 car payment and car, insurance and
Mhm.
all the other fees and whatever else, city taxes and all this, stickers and all this kind of stuff. I mean, that stuff adds
That's
up
one
fast.
that's one thing that's different about PA compared to Illinois. There is no car tax in Pennsylvania. There is in Connecticut and there is in New York, but there is none of that in Pennsylvania. So it's just, and
Mm,
clothing tax here is ridiculous. Like in Pennsylvania, there is no clothing tax. So you're like calculating and you know exactly what you're going to spend. And water tax, when you buy, I never been anywhere where there was water tax. So that's different. Here in Chicago
mm.
has that. Um,
Like bottles of water? What do you mean?
yeah, you get charged water tax here in Illinois for buying water, bottled water. Pay you if you look at
Mm.
your receipt, it will say water tax.
I've never, yeah, I guess I've never even paid attention. Like, is it just the same sales tax, like that 10.25, or is it
Yeah,
something different?
something similar
Yeah.
to that. Yep.
I remember there was a big controversy a few years ago about like the sugar tax, like any kind of soda or anything like that. They were trying to tax that, but I wouldn't have thought that water would have fallen under that.
Look
But
at
I guess it's kind of, huh?
look at your receipt.
I
Buy
will.
water.
I will next time. Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff where it's like living here, all the kind of nickel and dime stuff is like this is kind of for me like it is what it is. I'm not even trying to, what am I going to do about it?
Like 3 days into Chicago, I got moved here and I went to the grocery store and we're checking out and the lady's like, "You want a bag?" I'm like, because out in the East, we don't have to pay for bags. I'm like, yeah. Like
Hmm.
I said to her, yeah, I want a bag to put my groceries in. She's like, it's 7 cents. And I was like, they didn't tell me that in the interview that it was 7 cents a bag, right? And I do think
Yep.
now other states are catching up to that, but that wasn't a thing out in the East Coast when I moved here 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's so annoying. And then it's only the city. Like if I ever go to a grocery, like I go to a grocery in Skokie a lot because that's right next to the gym we go to, and they don't charge for bags there. So
Mm.
yeah, go drive to the suburbs so you can save 20 cents on bags if you really want, and spend $3 of gas to get there.
Right.
Let's see. Yeah, so you mentioned the restaurants. I assume in that neighborhood, Taylor Street is sort of like the main drag where there's going to be most of kind of the cool
Yeah.
restaurants and things to do, right?
Mhm.
Was I haven't I admit I haven't spent a ton of time in the Tri-Taylor area. I mean, I've done a little bit of work there and driven through it 1,000 times, but I haven't really lingered there for any social reasons or anything. So what would you say about that street? Like, what are some of the good spots and
So
things
I
about that?
don't feel like if you like Jamaican, there's Jerky Jerk. There is an Italian, I can't think of
Nice.
their name, but like half a block down, there's an Italian restaurant where they make fresh breads, fresh like breakfast. You could go and have, I forget what that name is. It can't come to mind, but if you keep on going uh like towards UIC, there's a lot of different restaurants over there as well. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of mom and pop shops like on Taylor and like little convenience stores and stuff like that, so you don't have to be like going to a gas station and a riffraff. You could just go to the mom
Hmm.
and pop um store and get whatever you need. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really neat little area. I mean, like Taylor Street right there is like this cool little, almost like villagey, like tree lined street, but there's all these really good looking restaurants and things like that there. So I can definitely
and
see
i
why.
and I
Yeah.
think they'll probably stay like that. So I guess there's like a homeowners association, not like you're in a condo, but like just in this community. And I
Hmm.
guess they were trying to build new apartments here in this area in the medical district, and they voted against it. So they're trying to keep that same home feeling when you're like going on these streets, but they did build like three-story condos. Like the community allowed them to do that. It's just very intriguing how involved, people that own their own
Hmm.
houses out here, like how much they speak up for this community.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's exactly, I feel like that's exactly what you want is people that are taking pride in their area and, having watching out for the best interests of it and
Mhm.
making sure that any kind of changes that are coming in are not going to change the things that give it its unique character and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess being so close to the medical district, is there like a higher concentration of sirens and this noise and things like that? What would you say? How would you
Yeah. I don't notice
judge
it
that?
until I'm gone for a week or so. Then I come back, I'm like, oh, I'm home, right? So there is. So like, if a cop ever is ever injured or, loses their life, they do and I know it every time because they shut Harrison off. And I forget to what street, but they shut it off and they pay respects there. So like, but they'll
Mm.
do it for like a few hours, and I could look out my window and I could see and I could know, like, officer was on duty and mishap happened or whatever the case may be. But you hear a lot of sirens, but you don't notice it until you're gone and then you come back. Because I don't notice it. Like I used to, like it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be like, oh my God, what's going on? But now it's like I sleep through it.
Yeah. It's amazing what you get used to, especially in a big city, like whether you live right next to a train stop or, like in an apartment I lived in prior for years. I mean, we were a block away. We were in between a hospital, a fire station, and a police station, all within different directions, like 100 yards of us, basically. It was nuts. And there was just sirens all day, every day. And the only time I ever realized that I ever really remember or that what can I say? The only time it ever even occurred to me that that was the case was like if I was on a phone call, and then it's like, oh,
Let
damn, sorry, yeah, the sirens. We live
me shut
close
my
to all the things.
window.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
What's the most surprising thing you've learned about your neighborhood since you lived there?
that. I think maybe it's not the neighborhood, but there's a lot of in and out because there's a lot of doctors that like live in this area and they leave. So there's a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
people come in, people come out, people come in. Like my neighbors here, I think I've been the longest one, and I'm typically like, oh, let me get to know my neighbors. But by the time you get to like have a full blown conversation, they're moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing, and two, I was surprised how kid friendly it was here.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's an elementary school right down the street. And I didn't know that kind of when I first moved here. I just really focused on my end of the street. There's a lot of kids here. But it's a good thing, right? There's a park back there, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know all of that when I moved. I was just trying to find a place.
Yep.
But just kid friendly here, and a lot of people walk their dogs, and that's it's very very welcoming. That like this is if you wanted to raise a family here, you could.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good note. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. So there's kind of two different people then, right? It's like the people that like you're like doctors and traveling nurses and kind of a more temporary transient work-based crowd like that. And then but then you have like the long-term homers that we were talking about earlier who are, this diehard tri-tailer, people that have been there for years or decades and
Right.
then you got you in between.
Right. It's very interesting to me. Cause like this
Yeah.
one guy, I didn't even know, but I parallel park all the time on this street. And the one guy was like, I saw you parallel park a couple, and I came out of nowhere. I saw you parallel park a couple times. If you cut your wheel a little bit more to the right, I think you got it. I'm like looking back, like he's like 5 houses down. I'm like, okay, when you think people are, I think people are not like when I have friends come visit, they're like, oh, like no one's nosy, like no one's in your business. But I'm like, yeah, that you would think that until you parallel park. Uh, but
That's fine. Nothing like a little unsolicited parallel parking advice to get the day going.
for sure. Yeah.
Has your parallel parking have your parallel parking skills increased since then? Was it good
I've
advice?
I've always been a good parallel parker because I took my test in a
Uh-huh.
van, and parallel
Okay.
parked that. But I think I'm more tempted to do tighter spots now, right? So I'll be the one to be like, I think I could do this, and then it's like the front and the rear bumper like kissing the cars but in front and behind me. But I'm like a risk taker like that, more so now than I've ever
Hmm. Is there a challenge that your neighborhood is facing, that the Tri-Taylor area is facing, that you know of, or that you've seen?
been. I think the neighborhood wants to stay the neighborhood, but around it, they're building tons of high rises. So when I moved here 5 years ago, like now at that, I think it's like Medical District Quarry or whatever, they like none of that was there. Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, none of that was there. Those
Yeah.
big high rises, the Lydia, like none of that stuff was there. And I think that people want to build here and want to do that, but the neighborhood's like, no, but you could build around us, right? And so
Mm.
I think that might be one of the biggest challenges because 5 years ago there was nothing, like no restaurants really on that side closer to like Rush Hospital. But
Hmm.
now they have like Five Guys and they're building things. And even if you're going this way on Harrison, um, it wasn't I was looking to just look, and like 5 years ago it was like abandoned lots back there, but now you see like new builds, BMW, so it's like behind the medical district. And like when I'm riding by, I'm like, where was all of this? So I feel like the neighborhood is about to get engulfed in like a lot of new, right? And
Yeah.
I know one of the neighbors has a problem with that, but I don't know the answer to that problem.
Sorry, you don't what? I couldn't hear the last part of that.
Oh, I said, I just don't know. I told the neighbor, I just don't know how to solve the problem of having a lot of new built around here, right?
Hmm.
So, because, like houses are going to go up, but like houses, I was looking to like just at numbers, like houses in this neighborhood are $500,000 and up. I'm like thinking to myself, and what are you worried about? In my head, but I'm
Hmm.
not a homeowner and I don't own anything that's $500,000 and above. So I don't know
Hmm.
why they would have an issue. But for me, I'm like, if it's already $500,000, what's wrong with, you know, it being more? But I don't know.
Yeah, especially when you already own it. Like, why don't you want the value of your home to go up?
Mhm.
Maybe you don't want your property taxes to go up. Maybe that'd be
That could
about
be a
the
big thing.
only downside.
Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously makes the barrier for entry a lot higher. Obviously for new people to come into the neighborhood if they want to. But
Right.
yeah, that's a nice little strip center or strip mall, whatever you want to call it there. It's not really a mall, it's just a bunch of restaurants, but I know what you're
Mhm.
talking about there, like with the Five Guys and like the Chipotle and stuff like that. I've gone there a few times.
They just put Chick-fil-A
You know,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's obviously all corporate franchise stuff. It's not like cool like mom and pop one-off things or anything like that. You still got to go down to Taylor Street for those, I guess, but
Exactly.
it's pretty clear that it's catering to the workers in the hospitals and things like that. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, all that development, that's just the near west side in a nutshell from Fulton Market. Fulton Market's quite a bit north, but it's still somehow is under the umbrella of the near west side. So yeah, Fulton Market, West Loop, even like over by United Center, all that stuff is
Yeah, they're starting to build
it's
up
all
over there.
happening.
It
You
is.
know,
Yeah, it is. Because I've actually looked at a couple of different places over there, but I don't know.
you could change one thing about your neighborhood. What would it be?
Hmm. I need to think about that question. That's a good question.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. You don't have to have an answer for all these.
okay. What I change? I don't know. I've never thought about that.
All good. If someone were to visit the Tri-Taylor area for just one day, what should they do? What are the must-see attractions or things that they would get the most out of?
I think there's a lot of good food. So I think whatever you're have the desire for as far as food, um, we have it right on Taylor. So Jamaican, Italian, pizza. There's like two pizza shops. One is a chain, and the other one is like mom and pop. So there's a lot of stuff to do, and there's little mini bars there too that like the drinks aren't like city expensive, you know. So if you and they're people friendly. So I would hang out here. And even like running and walking, there's tons of people that want run and walk in this neighborhood because the sidewalks are really, really good. And then there's like this lap, like this huge driveway lap that people work out in and put their dogs in. So there's food, health, which is like working out. And then if you have a dog, this is a good place for that. Walk your
Okay.
dog. Because I know people
Because
that
of
live on the other side by United and they come over here to walk their dog.
really,
Yeah.
why is that? Just because of all the different parks and
Because
or
it's
yeah,
safe.
why would that be?
Because
Okay.
it's safer on this side.
The safer on the south of 290
Mm-hmm.
on that side. Okay. And I guess we can sum it up here. So just bottom line in summary, why should somebody want to live in the Tri-Taylor Medical District, Little Italy, whatever you want to call it, neighborhood?
I think why someone should live here is because it's centrally located to everything and it's right off of 290. So you could go to the red light and make a right into the city, or you could make a left and go up to like Oak Park and what is that other town next to it? Woodridge, I think, or North Lawndale. That's what it is. North Lawndale is up that way. So we
Mm-hmm.
are very accessible. And if you don't have a car, public transportation is so easy. There was bus stops along the way. There's good food, and I think that you would feel safe. You know, as a single woman, I feel safe here. So I think that you would feel safe. And yeah, that's practically it.
Awesome. That's a
Perfect.
great encapsulation. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for
No
sharing
problem.
your thoughts on the neighborhood that you live in. And I'm glad that you're here. Glad you're liking Chicago. And
Thank
yeah, thank you so much.